Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. I pray everyone had a beautiful and restful weekend as we now embark on a new week. And I want to welcome you back to another weekly live with me, Asia Nasir, founder and nonprofit strategist of my consulting firm, Utopian Enterprise Business Solutions, where we help aspiring and existing nonprofit founders truly fulfill their mission within their nonprofit organizations. And I am also the author of my second release book, Nonprofit Doesn't Mean No Profit, where you can find on Amazon. So, welcome again. Welcome to another week. Our weekly lives are here for those that are new to my page and new to this content. I am here every Monday, 9:30 sharp, to be able to share some nonprofit content that can really help your organization really be able to take it to the next level, and for those starting to have a grip and an understanding of what it really takes to be an efficient and impactful nonprofit organization. So welcome back. And today is no different. I want to get right into today's topic, and it's talking about something that I think, especially as grassroots nonprofit organizations, and even those that are expanding and have been around, it's something that is kind of missed, and it could really affect your nonprofit from being able to move forward or retaining and holding the good reputation that every nonprofit has to have, and that's navigating legal and ethical considerations. And I know the reason why this is a topic that is shied away from is because it has the word legal. So it has obviously it's talking about the law and things of legal matters that most grassroots nonprofits are not savvy to. They're not privy to understanding a lot of the complex things that comes with the legality of running a nonprofit and the thought of running a nonprofit, especially a grassroots nonprofit, on a budget and thinking, I have to get legal counsel to be able to navigate this landscape. So for those, and that's a valid concern. However, it is something that should not be missed or just dismissed, I should say, because of the lack of funding. That should be something that you should be looking into on a consistent basis and taking into consideration on a consistent basis as you run a nonprofit. Nonprofits have a different um, responsibility, and than a for profit, and that's because for profit is more private. You run your business, you sell a product, you sell, the legal aspect of things, while for profits still have to abide by rules and regulations and the law. um, Nonprofit is a little bit different, and that's for several reasons. One is because your funding is not coming from selling a product. Your funding and your ability to continue to sustain and to provide the programs and the services that you offer is because you are soliciting public funding. So when you receive public funding, your responsibility to the public is a little bit different, and the level, the expectation of what you should be doing is higher than a for-profit business. And that's because people are looking that I'm supporting your organization. I want to ensure that you're doing what it is that you said you're going to do with the donations that you are receiving. So eyes are more on you versus a for-profit business. So following, being savvy and being, in adherence to legal matters and navigating that landscape is a little bit more important. And that's because the scrutiny of nonprofit organizations are much higher than it is for a for profit. So let's get into it. As I always do every single Monday, is I provide 5 strategies to assist any nonprofit wherever they are, if it's in the beginning, advanced, or intermediate level. Here are some 5 strategies to be able to assist you in navigating legal and ethical considerations, which is going to be extremely important to your nonprofit, retaining a great reputation and perception within the community that they're looking to serve. So let's get it right into it. Strategy number 1, and this is a big one: establishing clear policies and procedures within your organization. This is crucial to you being able to adhere to legal, aspects that are specific to nonprofit, as well as ethical, being able to do things from an ethical perspective when you establish clear policies and procedures. And this stems back to when you first start your nonprofit organization, you should have established bylaws. Bylaws are really important to having a nonprofit organization because it assists you in being able to uh, give instructions or a blueprint of how you are going to run your nonprofit organization. And that has a lot to do with ensuring that you are in governance, that those that are, sitting on your board are adhering to governance, which includes legal and ethical matters. These type of your bylaws really hones in on ensuring that not only does your organization have a set of bylaws, but that everyone is adhering to those bylaws. So before you have a board, join, they should have a copy. There should be a discussion about your bylaws and how what your organization is expecting of this board of director, because they're the decision makers. They are the executive team of your nonprofit organization. They should be adhering to legal matters and understanding that their decisions that they're making for the organization should be stemming from an ethical perspective at all times. Like that's a non-negotiable. And all of those things are in your organizational bylaws. And this is something reviewed within your nonprofit. If there's muddy waters as it relates to decision making, it should be a reference point for your nonprofit organization. It should be a reference guide for your board of directors. So not only should your bylaws be a go-to as it relates to your nonprofit organization when establishing policies and procedures, but there should be also a separate set of policies and procedures that relates to your staff and your volunteers. They're not decision makers within your organization. However, there should be policies and procedures set in place as it relates to legal matters like sexual harassment. So even within your volunteers, there should be something within your organization that establishes that these are non-negotiables. These are ethical things that we do not tolerate. These are things that we adhere to, and that this includes everyone from board of directors all the way down to the volunteers. Any staff that you have should have a copy of your policies and procedures, so that way everyone understands that we deal with things from an ethical perspective. Monies that we receive, there's a protocol in how we actually receive this money, what we do with the money, the transparency of the money, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. But these are all things that should be in place from board of directors to staff, as well as your volunteers. So there should be two sets of policies and procedures, one specifically for your board of directors, which is your bylaws, and then there should be a set of, like a code of conduct, for your staff and for your volunteers, as well as your board of directors, in understanding ethical considerations, how we do things, how we do not do things, as well as adhering to legal things that are specific to your organization's activities and how you do things as a nonprofit organization. Because again, as I've said, if you've seen any of my videos, I make it a point to drill the point that a nonprofit organization is a business and you need to be running it as such. So that is strategy number one, setting and establishing clear, and that's the point, clear policies and procedures for your nonprofit organization, for both your board of directors and for your staff and your volunteers. So that's strategy number one. Strategy number two is you should be facilitating regular training and education for your team, because think about it, you have turnover just like any other business. You have turnover. Your board of directors, they have a term or should have a term within the nonprofit organization, and that's also part of your bylaws, is determining how long your board of directors is going to be volunteering for your nonprofit. So if you have a term of 2 years, if you have a term of 4 years, whatever your term is for your board of directors, when their term is up, there's going to be turnover. There's going to be new people that need to become clear as to what your policies and procedures are as it relates to legal matters and ethical matters. So then you're going to have turnover. Volunteers, there's always turnover. So there should be regular trainings within your team, board of directors to volunteers, of regular training and education as it relates to legal matters. And some of this training should include how do you handle conflict resolution. I mean, not conflict resolution. I apologize. Oh my goodness, I just drew up a blank. Um, Conflict of interest. That's it. I knew it was conflict, but conflict of interest. So if there's a decision that needs to be made, that maybe this is including a relative of someone from the board of directors, or this is, the board of director themselves looking to, be paid or something from the nonprofit organization. Are we making considerations, from an ethical perspective, as well as, are we considering this conflict of interest and handling it the way it should? So that becomes an ethical matter and a legal matter for your nonprofit organization. So do you have a set of procedures in place, and are you training your team when the time arises where there may be an instance where there's a conflict of interest? What are the steps and procedures in order to handle that, to ensure that your nonprofit organization is staying above reproach? So that's one of the things that should be trained within your organization. Risk management, ethical reporting, like your financial reporting. How are you, what is the procedure for that? And everyone should be aware. Everyone should be in the know of what are the procedures, what are the ethical considerations, so no one is out of the loop. And if you're having continuous training, this is something that even the new people coming in will be, privy to, as well as a reminder for anyone, outside that, I mean, anyone that's been within the organization for a while is going to be reminded that, yes, this is an important factor within the organization. And so this is a reminder that we have to conduct ourselves in a certain manner when it comes to things, so that education is something that is instilled and, embedded in the minds of those that are supporting your nonprofit organization or within the organization. So, strategy number 2 is regular training and education. So, strategy number 3 is um, engaging legal counsel. I know this is something that people are like, well, I can't afford an attorney. Attorneys are really expensive, their services are expensive. There's two things that I will say to that. Just like any other business, there are costs involved. That there's just expenses that are involved, that just comes with running a business. And as I mentioned just a little while ago, running a nonprofit organization is a business. So if you are considering that, again, every year you should be looking at your annual budget, restructuring your annual budget. What is it? What are the expenses that are needed in order for us to run our nonprofit organization in an efficient manner? That is where your sponsorships, your donations, your fundraisers, all of those different things, the money, unrestricted grants that are given to your nonprofit organization, that is where funding can be included, and a budget can be included to retain an attorney. So a lot of attorneys, you can work with an attorney and say, look, for the purpose of this is what we need, what would be the cost to retain your services? So that's one way of establishing engaging legal counsel, because it's really important to be able to know, especially when it's complex legal matters, you're not sure, it's not included in your bylaws, this is something that is above, certain things. You should be able to consult an attorney, someone who works specifically for your organization, that has nonprofit education and experience, to be able to counsel and advise your nonprofit organization. A second way in which you can look at it, and this is what I did with my nonprofit organization, is retain an attorney to sit on your board. That's an opportunity, and that's a conversation that you can have with someone to say, part of our expectation as you sitting on the board is being able to provide that level of service for us as needed, not something that is going to be an actual job, but just as needed to review contracts and agreements and things like that. Could you provide that service as a volunteer for our organization as a board member, to be able to ensure that our organization is, on the up and up, and making sure that we're adhering to legal matters and, above reproach, and doing things from an ethical perspective. So that's another approach that your nonprofit can have, which is retaining an attorney to sit on your board that's volunteering those things, so that way it's not something that is outside of your budget or something that you can't afford for your organization. This is something that you can retain, and it's going to just be a win-win situation for you and everything that you're doing. So, retaining counsel is extremely important. So those are two ways in which you can do that in order to make sure that your organization is in good standing at all times. So that's strategy number 3. Strategy number 4 is, and this should be something that's done regardless, but it just promotes, again, doing things from an ethical perspective, and holding everyone accountable, and that's the transparency and accountability. A nonprofit organization should be transparent, always. And again, that goes back to why, because you are soliciting funds from the public. These are people that are trusting that if I give you money, you are going to use this money for the purpose in which you solicited your donations for. So if you're asking to, for a program, if you're asking to solicit equipment, you're getting a donation to get a location, whatever it is that you're soliciting money for, the people that you are asking for, so whether it's individuals, family, friends, colleagues, corporate sponsors, don't, grants, things like that, this is from the public. You are soliciting public funds. They have a right to know. They have a right to know where the funds are being used. So have a procedure set in place that you're able to, create that environment. Whether it's, at your board meetings, having your financial reporting, um, provided to your board of directors, so that way they see what's coming in, what's going out, what is the remaining balance, what are our expenses coming up, here's what we're going to, so that way everybody is understanding that the money is going where it says it's going to be going, and not being used for individual, advancement. So that's going to be crucial. And if your board of directors are comfortable that this is where the funds are going, they're going to be more than happy to continue to solicit for donations, which is part of what a board of director does, which is, to provide funding sources for the organization. So that comfortability, that confidence that the money is being used in the way that it's supposed to, that's an ethical matter. We are doing things from an ethical perspective. We're not using this money for things that has nothing to do with the nonprofit or the promotion of the mission. We are using the funding as we said that we were going to use it. So, and those that are donors outside of the organization, should also feel comfortable seeing photos, getting newsletters, and things like that that are informing the public of where the funding is going, what you're doing to ensure that your activities, this is where the money's went, here's the program, here's the project, or whatever it is, should be something that's visible to those that we're giving money. Also, you should establish transparency within your organization as it relates to if someone is not, and they kind of, in the corporate world, they call this whistleblowing. There should be a procedure set in place that if someone witnesses someone within your nonprofit that is doing something that is illegal or unethical, that there's an opportunity for them to be able to report such things without retaliation, with the support, maybe with the, some people want to do it anonymously, but still follow up on those things to ensure that you take it seriously, and that those within the organization understand that those type of reportings are taken seriously and investigated immediately. Not when you get around to it, but immediately. And again, this then promotes that your nonprofit does things from a perspective of being ethical and adhering to legal matters at all times. That is going to keep your organization above reproach. So that's strategy number 4. And last but not least, definitely not least, your organization should be engaging in internal audits. Internal audits, what, coming from, are we adhering, reading the meeting minutes? Are we adhering to the bylaws and how we are handling conflict of interest, or, voting? the financial, going over financial records, making sure everything is above reproach and that it is transparent. All of these different things, and having an internal audit, because make no mistake about it, nonprofit organizations get audited by the IRS as well. That is not when you want to find out that your organization is not doing something legal, or that your organization is doing something, unethical. That's not when you want to find out. So you want to have a team of those that come in and actually do an internal audit to ensure that your organization is within compliance, adhering to your bylaws, adhering to laws that are particular to nonprofits, as well as making sure that your organization is making decisions based from a ethical perspective. So having those internal audits, it gives you the confidence that your organization is doing things correctly, and that anyone at any given time can learn about your organization, and you can feel confident that your organization is doing things as it should be doing, especially being a public entity, that you are soliciting funds, and that people can feel confident in giving money to your organization, knowing that it is being used in the way it should be. So, that is the 5 strategies that I wanted to share with you this morning that are extremely important. So, if you have not if you have your bylaws or you don't even know what I'm talking about, yeah, that's a problem. That's something that you need to revisit within your organization to say, do we have bylaws? What's in our bylaws? Is it enough? Are we establishing conflict of interest procedures? Are we, do we have a procedure in place for, reporting unethical, behaviors and things like that? What are our bylaws? Do we have a policy? Do we have policy and procedures for our staff and for our team? This is something that if you don't have it, you need to establish it. You really need to establish it. Do you have internal auditing between, and you don't need to have a big organization to be able to do that. You can have a grassroots nonprofit with 3 to 5 board members. There still needs to be an internal audit, at least on an annual basis, within your company. Trainings. These are all things that you should be doing. And if you're not, this is something that needs to be revisited at your next board meeting to see how you are going to start implementing those things. And if you don't have an attorney on there, and now, you need to have someone to be able to review your contracts and agreements and to ensure that your organization is doing things correctly and on the up and up when it comes to changes that are happening regarding the law. And is your organization, aware of it and adhering to it? That's where you need that attorney. So do you have an attorney? And does anyone on your board know of an attorney that would like to volunteer their time, or creating a budget to have an attorney be able to have to be able to solicit their services, to keep you in the know and keep you in good standing at all times? So these are the 5 strategies that you should definitely be considering and discussing at your next board meeting to make sure that your organization is doing what it needs to be doing from a legal perspective and an ethical perspective. So, once again, I hope that this was beneficial to you. I hope you was able to take at least 1 or 2 things and say, look, we need to implement this immediately in order to be in, to do what we need to do. I hope it was beneficial. Stay tuned, because next week I'll be here again live, to be able to share some more nonprofit content to help you to truly fulfill your mission of your nonprofit organization in real time. So have an impactful week. Make a difference in everything that you do, whether within the organization or just on the street. Make sure that you're providing some positivity around the world, because we definitely need it. So make sure you're being impactful. Make sure you're being productive, not just busy. And I'll see you all next week for another episode of nonprofit content that's going to help your organization. See you soon.